I have a fundamental question about the nature of the human soul. Do you think it should go out stagnant, still, in the same shape as it was? Or should it roar out in the same way it came in? Burning. What's up, guys? I'm Here we want to do a breakdown and review for chapter 371 of Black Clover, which is known as Indestructible Soul. And this chapter is kind of nice. It's kind of clean. It's looking a little bit kind of me. So, you know, we got a hefty, depthy, no lefty chunk to talk about. And we can't waste any more time. So let's not waste any more time. And let's hop right into it. Anyway, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Hey, what's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact. Yeah. Souls. It's interesting. You know, typically, I think souls are always a funny topic to tackle, especially within anime and manga, because, like, every mangaka does it differently. Like, sometimes souls will go unmentioned, sometimes souls will be tied into the power system, sometimes souls will be entirely separate from the power system, sometimes souls will, like, take on different shapes depending on the person, sometimes the shape of the soul will actually, like, become part of a character's entire power set. I'm thinking of popular antagonists from JJK. Sometimes you'll be able to split the soul, sometimes the soul will not be able to be interacted with, and Black Clover is also a series that's kind of heavily based in souls, and the manipulation of them. Obviously, our main villain's whole thing is kind of being the not necessarily culmination, but the completion of the flesh, the body, and the bone in the idea of soul magic. That's what Lucius's big thing is about, manipulating and tying into the darkness of the soul. So thusly, Black Clover has always been tangentially about it, and seeing the shape of the soul and the ideal acclamation and form of it being brought up is something that I really, really like in this chapter. So we open up, and we do get to see that ultimately Morris finally got through the wall of bodies that Mereoleona kept throwing at him. Every single one of her brigade members kind of gets torn apart by Morris's hands. If you remember, the last time we saw Mereoleona and Morris, make me. The big issue was that Mereoleona's body, like, kept getting torn apart by Morris's hands, and her people were like, don't worry, boss lady, I got you, my G, and threw themselves straight into the many hands that Morris could spawn from his body that were immediately deconstructing them. But ultimately, while it looked like Mereoleona was going to start cooking off that alone, yeah, unfortunately she just couldn't. At this point, Mereoleona just didn't have enough time to get close to Morris to actually do any significant damage, while her brigade members got discombobulated, to put it nicely. I think discombobulated is the nice way to put it. But with that being the case, it did leave for Morris to create something interesting. As he says, "Oh, those annoying incompetents dead now. Perfect. In that case, allow me to show you something. I'll show you real living shields." So Morris activates earth magic. Not open earth magic, but earth magic. March of Holy Fools. And creates these beautiful constructs. I'm telling you, don't get me wrong, I definitely get it. Tabata, like, I say this all the time, but obviously you hear it less and less now that Black Clover comes out every 4 months and they don't cover it as consistently on the channel. But I want to say this. In terms of balance, like, perfectly balanced as all things should be, I feel like Tabata takes some of the best that every other Shonen Jump mangaka has to offer. In terms of sheer art quality from Horikoshi, like, this is just beautiful. This is fantastic. From the fluidity of motion and dynamic posing from Sakamoto days and Suzuki-sensei, also applied perfectly here. In the ability to manipulate the form, the line, the page, the black and white, in a similar vein to someone like Nakaba Suzuki. Obviously, Nakaba Suzuki's a bit different because he's not. I think he technically is shonen, but it's weird. Nakaba's weird, but essentially, he even has some of that fluidity that I love Nakaba for in Nakaba's line work. And overall, he just combines all of it really, really well, and then has his own unique detail in the way that he shades, which always looks so immaculate. I love the different levels of shading that he does here, and this spread right here is beautiful. He's good. He's good. I don't know why. A lot of people, they're so mean to Black Clover. I don't get it. Like, I guess there are aspects of it that I like and I've seen done better elsewhere. But as a culmination, as a jack of all trades, I really, really, really like Black Clover. And he even has one of my favorite aspects in modern shonen, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But with that being the case, Morris activates Earth Magic March of Holy Fools, which is a fire behind name, might I say. Like, that name is some straight gas. I'm sorry, you call that what? You call it where? You call it the March of Holy what? Golly! Okay, Morris spit a little bit. But speaking of spitting, Mereoleona starts
and tries to light them all up. But unfortunately, you see, due to the time period, Mereoleona didn't get well, I guess? No, I'm about to say, technically they are more technologically advanced than some of us, in some ways due to magic, but they didn't get to play any Pokemon growing up. Thusly, they do not know that fire is not very effective on ground. And we see, as Mereoleona burns away, she does some damage to these earth golems. They very much immediately regenerate and start swarming her. And she even realizes that, sweet mother of mercy, now he's finally using his other magic. Oh no, I'm cooked! As the earth golems regenerate insanely fast, and thusly are not really able to do anything, or at least Mereoleona's attacks aren't really able to do anything to them, and thusly they're going to be able to tear her apart before she ever even begins to reach Morris, kind of making the sacrifice of all her comrades worthless. And Morris even agrees to a certain degree. He's like,
well, would you look at that? You and me are so the same, aren't we? You see, I was born greater, with a greater intellect, superior mind abilities, but ultimately, there are so many not born like us, strong like us, smart like us, powerful like us, juicy and scrumdiddlyumptious like us, and thusly it is our responsibility to use them on our path to ascension. I sacrifice countless half-wits, hoping to behind and go beyond the natural limits of this world, yet I simply could not. I couldn't find a result, but luckily enough, I was blessed by Daddy Lucius, who chose me. He granted me magic, which will let me tap into my knowledge and abilities fully, the power to destroy everything, and the power to create life. My days of hard work weren't wasted. Don't be scared, Mereoleona. Join us. Rise to a higher power. Become one with us and transcend human nature.
Which is interesting. Notably, Morris to a degree sees himself in Mereoleona, as I just mentioned in a little ramble there. And with that being the case, he sees Mereoleona sacrificing all those people in order to just hopefully get an attack on Morris as being the same thing, sacrificing those half-wits to hopefully go somewhere beyond the limits of mankind. But ultimately, there's a fundamental difference between Mereoleona and Morris, where Mereoleona would, in a way, sacrifice those people. Notably, she didn't tell them to sacrifice themselves. She didn't tell them to throw yourselves in the line of duty for me so I can do this one thing that may not work. Morris did not give any of his subjects a choice. He took them by force, by any means necessary, in order to use them as he saw fit. That is not good. And thusly, it makes him different from Mereoleona, who, as we see, ultimately walked a life of loneliness. As she begins to find her human limits once again, she's reminded of a past where ultimately she was left alone. When you're born overwhelmingly powerful, overwhelmingly smart, overwhelmingly fast, just different from other people, but different in a way that can be admired and acknowledged, and not different in a way that can be looked down upon, you find yourself isolated. It's the peril of strength, the peril of power, essentially. If you ever heard those stories about those extremely smart kids who always felt extremely lonely, those who were extremely strong finding themselves isolated, even those who ran so far ahead that they left everybody else behind, Mereoleona was born into a world like that, to the point where, obviously, as we know, she didn't necessarily find herself identifying with humans, identifying with other people that may just be like her, in the sense that they are mages as well. No, she found herself almost locked away, forced to go into nature to find something that would allow her, to be free, to act on her own and exist on her own. And ultimately, that did allow her to find these places of human limitation, to reach that peak, to go to the points where she could not do with other people. But even she realized that ultimately, as close as she made it to the top, she couldn't do it alone. That's impossible. Ultimately, no man is an island. No matter how powerful, no matter how strong, no matter how deific that man may be, no man can operate alone. We are a societal species. We are species built on social interaction, naturally. And thusly, Mereoleona could not make it. She could not reach that pinnacle. She found her human limits all on her own. But, naturally, there was a point where Mereoleona found out the truth. That ultimately, while she may have been ahead, while she may have left people behind in her natural biology, she wouldn't be left alone for long. as the many hands of fate that tried to reach her managed to. And we see all these different people, all of her men, her soldiers, all the people who chased her into those lava pools, chased her into those natural environments, chased her into that peak, that level to go beyond human limits. All those who did are what raise her now. All those who found that they could not reach her strength. Naturally, they were simply born lesser, with less magic potential, less depth, less elite talent. They all still desired to reach for it, in spite of Mereoleona acknowledging that you will never reach me. Y'all are not like that for real, for real. They didn't care. They simply saw a peak, a mountain, something to grow to, and thusly decided that they wanted to attempt to climb that mountain. They may never make it past the halfway point. Heck, they may not even make it a quarter of the way up, but they still want to try. It's kind of like if you've ever seen people attempting to race people much faster than them, right? Obviously you're going to lose. If someone like you or I were to randomly go against Prime Usain Bolt, we would lose. But some of us among us would not give up. They would just keep trying to chase Usain Bolt. They would keep training with them, working with them, trying to use them as a point to empower themselves to go further beyond. And ultimately, Mereoleona's men went down that path. That path where they believed that ultimately, yeah, sure, you're built different. We're not. But that doesn't mean we have to give up. That doesn't mean we have to stop. And ultimately, they tried to match that strength with hers. And we see that ultimately Mereoleona was never as alone as she thought, even in life now, as Fugelion comes up and is like, sis, I got you, Mighty, and proceeds to burn many of them away, burn many of the obstacles. Unfortunately, no spirit dive from Fugelion this chapter. I was itching, scratching, and hoping, and I don't know, I think spirit dive Fugelion stocks are just gone. I think they're annihilated. I don't think we're seeing it, which is really unfortunate. He's the only one who's tied to a spirit at this point that does not have a spirit dive, which is crazy considering the other two characters who do have spirit dives in Noelle and Fugelion, not Noelle and Fugelion, Noelle and Yudo, have not just had spirit dives for a while now, but like also transcended their initial spirit dives, which is crazy. But with that being the case, Lord Fugelion comes out with Salamander and starts clocking the opposition. Breakfast, lunch, dinner on the side. And we see that ultimately Mereoleona, by realizing that she's not alone, by realizing that the connection she forged with those people, those bonds that she made, and those people who were willing to throw themselves in the line of duty for her in an attempt to reach her, ultimately did have an effect on her. Even if they never could reach her level, even if they couldn't help make her stronger, they did still make her stronger. They did still make her better, in a way that is now tangible, as we see her grimoire alight, with the ability to awaken those who have been lost to the flames and destruction of earth and absolution. And from the depths, from the cracks in the lava itself, rise ultimate flame magic. I can't say it, gosh darn it! I was trying to build up so it'd be nice and smooth. I say the magic properly. Excelicitus Leonum. I only know Leo means lion, but with that being the case, she rises pretty much all of her fallen comrades. And just as I talked about how beautiful that previous spread was, all the way back at the start of the chapter from Morris, another crazy spread from Big Daddy Tabata, as this one goes even more buku bonkers and really shows off like the shading element that I really like about Tabata. I don't know, no one else shades like him. I've seen many mangaka at this point. No one else shades like. I have no idea what he even does. Like it's freaky. I can't even, like, I've tried to imitate it and Procreate, and I still don't know exactly how to do it. I have a loose idea on how to try it, and I think I may experiment with it for the next thing, but even still, like, whenever I've tried to replicate Tabata's art style, since I typically just open up my Sharingan and just try to take it, I can't. I can replicate to some degree, even if it takes me forever. I can somewhat replicate what Hori does. I can definitely replicate what Nakaba does. I can even replicate Suzuki Sensei on occasion. It just takes a while because when I'm trying to replicate them, they are extremely detailed in the weirdest ways. But I don't know, Tabata just built fundamentally different, and I do love that ultimately Tabata isn't run away from the Disney Clover allegations. He's diving further into them, but making it make sense in universe. Ultimately, by binding spells in the magic system to self-understanding and self-respect and self-development, by having Mereoleona achieve this connection through others, through the flames, and of course all these souls being so recently departed, and the idea that magic sort of tides and dances between the boundary of the afterlife and the living world in Black Clover, which has been set up for a while, she's able to use her magic, born of connection, to reconnect these souls, to reignite them, to burn them. And we see that ultimately Mereoleona declares, even if they fall, they decided to follow her, and thusly they are not free of the line of duty just yet. And rather than being in despair, rather than being unhappy with such a fact, rather than even daring to fight back, they lock in. They hit the yes, mate, and they immediately go to work. And these living constructs, these living flames, these embodiments of souls absolutely begin to annihilate the type matchup. They must be fire water types or fire ice types or something, because they body bag these earthen golems. And we see that Morris is like, what in the world? What's happening? And as he begins to tweak out, Mereoleona's like, don't you see? You're manipulating soulless clouds of dirt. You could never surpass me. And ultimately, Morris goes on to try and dismantle her, try to destroy her, ultimately tear her apart. But he realizes something. Where before Mereoleona was worried about reaching into the realm of mana, destroying herself entirely, sort of transcending and becoming magic itself, now she has no fear of that anymore. Now she's allowed herself to transcend. She's joined the very people that she's resurrected. Her body's completely transformed into mana. She's transcended the physical form, and thusly, with no physical body to dismantle, Morris's abilities have no effect, and she burns far too hot for any of his earth magic to do anything. Meaning that ultimately, Mereoleona has transcended into a territory only thought possible by the hands of a god, like Lucius, as Morris even tries to claim. But ultimately, Morris failed to realize that it isn't just through an external higher power that one can gain that transcendence, but it's through dedication and connection that one can find the ideal shape of the human soul. And through that ideal shape, we see that ultimately, Mereoleona's humanity never mattered in a case of holding her back. If anything, it only made her stronger, as she burns through Morris, and finds that ultimately, she managed to fulfill his wish. He simply turned into fuel for human evolution. And thusly, he tears, or got torn apart. Overall, a very, very, very W chapter. I love everything about this chapter. From the character work for Mereoleona, to the extra characterization for her people, to the magic system coming in and cooking as it tends to. I love everything about this chapter. This is honestly one of my favorite chapters of Black Clover. If for what a culmination it is. Unfortunately, I do think it sort of just ends these two characters. I don't really see them cooking anymore, but I'd be more than happy to be proven wrong on that Tabata. Let them cook even more after this. Let them fight a Lucius clone or something, get a Spirit Knife from Galia, and we could see even more cooking. However, that's what I think. Please know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon below where you can support me for as low as $1 monthly, things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 monthly to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include live reactions to every single series I review, including live reaction to this very chapter, ad-free variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Now, thank you so much for watching. Also, I do have a Ko-Fi down below. If you want to make a one-time donation or a one-time video request, it'll be linked down below. But now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Bang on the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members. Wakana Plays, Greyhound, Kids Void, Astro, Eternal Flame, Red Wolf, 4765, King Sukuna, NMA, Real Rare, and Paris Arnold. I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons, Super Gamer Q, Steron, Sean, Sammy, Oexian, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Josh Brown, and Igneo. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $7 member, Autumn Mornings Lazo. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 members, Jay Warrior and Robbie Uchiha. And I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $10 patrons, Panda Goat, Joaquin Munoz, and Idem Okami. And I'd like to give a gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, China Doll 09. I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $20 patron, Calvin Elder.